This is Lori Borg, and this is the Big Shanty Intermediate Data Overview. The purpose of this data overview is to use data to draw attention to and start conversations related to student achievement at Big Shanty Intermediate. By isolating trends, identifying areas of strength and areas that need to be strengthened, we can begin conversations to help us improve overall student learning. Demographics at Big Shanty Intermediate. In 2013, we had 735 students. In 2014, we had 780 students. And in 2015, we had 702 students. As you can tell by looking at the graph for those 3 years, the majority of our population was white, non-Hispanic students. And after that, Black African American students. And coming in third would be the Hispanic population. Here is a graph that shows the additional subgroups we have at Big Shanty Intermediate. We have limited English proficiency, free reduced lunch, and students with disabilities. You can tell by looking at the free and reduced lunch category on the chart that we have a pretty large population that uses this program, but actually we do not qualify for Title I funds because we're just under the qualification. So this does really impact Big Shanty in helping those students. We also have a large population of students with disabilities. We have several different units at our school, an MOID unit and an EBD unit, and they do make up a large part of our population also. Here is a pie chart that shows information on our certified staff experience. And this is counted in their years of experience. We have a total of 63 certified staff members, and you can tell 34% have between 8 and 13 years, and we have very little that have 0 to 3 years. We only have 2% of our staff with that many years. This next graph shows students meeting or exceeding standards in 2012 to 2014. And you'll notice that I took a little bit of a shift on the years because I didn't want to include 2015 because the milestone reports have just come in at our school this past week, and I didn't have time to really dig down and drill down into the data. So I used 2012 through 2014. And that way it would also all be consistent on using CRCT scores. So this graph shows, again, 2012 through 2014. And you can tell in reading ELA, we do pretty well in reading, 93%, ELA 85%. But then we go downhill from there, and especially in science and social studies at 64% and 65% this year. But over the last 3 years, consistently, science and social studies have scored lower. So on this graph, I have students meeting or exceeding the 2014 CRCT broken down by content area and broken down by 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So you can tell that reading and ELA, consistently in the 80s, and then math, we're doing all right there, but we could be doing better. And science and social studies, again, below everything else. It looks like 3rd grade social studies, they're starting to get up there close to 80, but still science is way behind everybody else. So I feel like the discussion that needs to be had at our school is, why do you think the number of students meeting or exceeding the standards in science and social studies is significantly lower than in the other content areas. Down even further into science, here's a comparison on the 2014 CRCT in science and comparing Georgia, the state of Georgia, to Cobb County, and then specifically comparing it to Big Shanty. And you can tell by the graph that Big Shanty scores below the state and the county as far as the number of students that are meeting or exceeding the standard. All right, so drilling down even further and looking closer at the science CRCT results. And here I have it broken up between the male students and the female students. The pie chart on the left is for the male students, and you can tell that 32% does not meet, 38% meets, and 20% exceeds. And that means that 68% of male students met or exceeded science standards. And then if you look at the chart on the right, it shows the female students, and that 16% does not meet, 61% meets, and 23% exceeds, meaning that 84% of female students met or exceeded science standards. I found this very interesting, and I felt empowered, girl power, because you always think of the STEM content areas as the males exceeding in that, but at our school, the female students have really done well in science. All right, drilling down more with our subgroups and looking closer at the 2014 Science CRCT results and looking at the limited English proficiency students, you can tell over 2012, 2013, 2014, the does not meet went from 16% up to 25, back down to 15%, and that again is for the does not meet. And then for the meets or exceeds, in 2012 was 84%, 2013 was 75%, and in 2014, 85%. And I was really surprised by these results because I thought the does not meet would be much higher than what it was, since science is such a vocabulary-rich content area. And I thought that that would really impact the students that didn't speak English. But you can tell they did pretty well. Okay, here we're looking at the Science CRCT results for 2014 for students with disabilities. You can tell by looking at this graph that 56% does not meet, 38% met, and 6% exceeded, which means in 2014, 44% of students with disabilities met or exceeded the standards on the Science CRCT. Okay, so this is where I really like looking at data when it is over several years. So in 2014, we've established that 44% of students with disabilities met or exceeded the standards on the Science CRCT. But look at this graph from 2013, where 25% of the students with disabilities met or exceeded the standards on the Science CRCT. So we are closing the gap, and there is improvement in that subgroup. All right, to sum up all this wonderful data that you have been seeing, we looked at the number of Big Shanty students meeting or exceeding standards on the CRCT, and that it falls below the district and state averages in all subject areas. The number of students meeting or exceeding the standards in science is considerably less than all subject areas. Female students outperform male students. Woo woo! And the number of students with disabilities meeting or exceeding the standards in science is increasing. So now that we can see what's happening at Big Shanty Intermediate, we have the data, we've drilled down the data, we can see what's going on. We can see that the percentage of students with disabilities meeting or exceeding the standards in science is increasing. So what can we do in other student populations to increase the percentage of proficient learners and students? What can we do for the English language learners to increase their scores? What can we do to the economically disadvantaged that will help them? So these are conversations that we need to have at Big Shanty to see how we can improve the scores and use the data as a starting point. I really enjoyed doing this project. It was interesting to look at the data and to drill down into the subgroups and to see exactly who was scoring what and potentially have conversations about why they are exceeding or why they're not exceeding. And I look forward to using this with the administration in order to make Big Shanty a better school. Thank you.